Hi, it's Keith from the Evangelical Free Church, Stony Stratford, and we're continuing our series of short talks in the Gospel of Luke. And today we come to Luke 14, verse 25 to 35. There's a change of scene here at this point in Luke's Gospel. Jesus is back on the road after the meal at the Pharisee's house. And many people are following him, but he knows not all of them follow for the right reasons. Not all really want to be his disciples. Some just want to see his miracles. Others perhaps want to be healed. A few, yes, they actually want to be his disciples. So he makes a challenge to those in the crowd. When I started building and decorating, I worked with a very experienced and older decorator and builder. And I learned a lot from Bill. And really, that's what disciple means. It's like to be an apprentice. And to be an apprentice, and if you go to the Greek word, it is to learn, it is to imitate. And so watching Bill and imitating him, I learned what it was to do a job right. And Jesus challenges the people in the crowd here as to what it means to be a disciple. Verse 26, if anyone comes to me and does not hate his father and mother, his wife, children, brothers and sisters, yes, even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. We might think that's a bit over the top, but it was very much the way that the rabbis taught in those days. They would exaggerate things to make a point. Basically, what it says in the Greek is to love less. Jesus requires that devotion from his disciples. And he goes on further to sort of show that it's imitation as well. Verse 27, and if anyone who does not carry his own cross and follow me cannot be my disciple. We know where Jesus is going to go. He will go to the cross to die for our sins. And Jesus says, you've got to identify with me. To carry one's cross was a shameful thing. If you looked in the Jewish law, back in Deuteronomy 21:23, it talked about someone being hung on a tree. They were cursed by God. And Jesus was going to take a curse for us. And Jesus says, are you prepared to have that level of shame that I'm going to take if you're going to be one of my followers? There's no doubt he's upping the stakes here and probably making many people in the crowd very, very uncomfortable. He then basically says to them, you've got to count the cost. And he gives two illustrations here. He talks about a person setting out to build a tower. And he says, well, that person's got to sit down and work out the cost. When my wife and I have been to places like Mallorca, we see dozens of places where people have started building, but they haven't finished. And it really is a testament to folly, isn't it? And Jesus says, obviously, you want to work out the cost because you'll be a laughing stock if you can't finish. The other example he gives is a king going to war. And if a king's sensible, he'll look at the other army, the other king that's coming against him, and make a decision. Can he win this war? Wouldn't it be better to sue for peace if the army is bigger? And Jesus sums it up in this way. Verse 33, in the same way, any of you who does not give up everything he has cannot be my disciple. Nothing is to come between us and Christ. I think really the test here is not can you have possessions or should we sell everything and give it to the poor and sort of live like hermits. No, the Bible has a lot to say about the goodness of God and the things and the gifts he gives us. But the key thing Jesus is saying here is this. In the end, are those things more important than me? Can you give them up if you had to? He gives an illustration which is interesting about how we are to live. If we are to identify with him, then how we should live. Verse 34, salt is good, but if it loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? There's a danger, isn't there, that we can lose our enthusiasm for walking the Christian walk. And then we fail to be any good. Jesus actually wants followers who actually make a difference. He talks actually about his followers being like salt, a good influence. You know, salt was used to purify. Salt was used as a disinfectant. Salt was a good thing in the ancient Near East. And he's not mucking about here, because he says this, the last part of that verse, 34, 35. He who has ears to hear, let him hear. In the end, it's incredibly important how we live lives. What are our priorities? These are key things, aren't they? What are our priorities? Is Christ first in our life? Well, I'm going to say he ought to be. And the reason I'm going to give is from Galatians here. Listen to this, Paul's letter to the Galatian church, and chapter 2 and verse 20. I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. The life I live in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me. You see, it's not all one way. It's not about what we're doing. In the end, it's about what Christ has done. And if Christ has come and paid for our sin, Paul did not think that the cost was too much to hand his life over to the one who actually in the end could save him and redeem him. Thank you so much for listening.